Hi everyone, my name is Robert Pendergraft and I'm the Makeup Effects and Creature Effects Coordinator for Aunt Dolly's Garage Special Effects Studio. Today I'm going to be talking about some of the creature effects we made for the first Hatchet movie. One of the elements that we were tasked to make in the first Hatchet movie was alligators. Part of the story arc was that Samson, played by Robert Englund, and Ainsley, played by Josh Leonard, were both out in the swamp hunting a large alligator.
He's at least 12-footer if I ever saw one.
Building alligators wasn't a big stretch for us over at John Buechler's effects shop, Magical Media Industries. They made an alligator in Addams Family Reunion just right before I started there. The Lake Placid craze came along, and we ended up building a huge 25-foot crocodile for the movie Blood Surf, as well as making a bunch of giant alligator elements for the movie Dino Croc, so making a 12-foot alligator for the movie Hatchet wasn't a problem. We brought in a sculptor whose sole purpose was to sculpt the alligator, and he did a great job. It looked amazing. The shot called for the alligator to break the surface and lunge up at Ainsley, and to do that we needed enough gator real estate so that the camera wouldn't see the back edge of the prop. So the gator was sculpted all the way back to just before its arms. It took around 8 boxes of wood clay to get there. If you're not familiar with wood clay, you get 2 25-pound bricks per box. This thing weighed in around 400 pounds. Seriously, the wooden work table it was on was starting to bow. We molded the sculpture in fiberglass and reinforced it with steel bars. The next day we opened the mold and dug out enough clay so that we could lay in a uniform 1.5-inch thickness of clay so that we could make the core. Because we were making only one gator, we decided that we would use the core as the understructure for mechanics, and for that reason we made it extra thick out of fiberglass. Once that was done, we pulled the mold apart, dug out the clay and pressure washed everything. After it dried out and was nice and clean, we put it all back together and ran silicone into the mold, and bam, we had our gator skin. Our next focus was the stand that held up the gator and allowed us to operate it. We needed a base on it that would distribute the weight of the prop evenly and still be able to operate on uneven ground and underwater. We went with a standard I formation, a crossbeam in the front, a crossbeam in the back, and one to connect the two in the center, which is where we mounted the vertical bar. With that one, we put a bar within a bar and drilled a bunch of holes in it at 3 inches apart so we can raise and lower the height of the gator to match up with the water line, as well as adjust if the base starts to sink into the muddy pond bottom. We mounted a bearing on top of the vertical bar that was able to spin freely, and on top of that we welded a couple pieces of metal that formed a U. This gave us all the mobility we needed for this. Once we placed the slide bar in the U, we would be able to pivot the head left and right, lift the head up and down, and slide the head forward and back. While this was going on, our mechanic cut the jaw free from the fiberglass core and added some hinges to it so the mouth would open and close. After that, a pneumatic cylinder was added onto the jaw and connected to a high-pressure air tank. Now that that was all done, we were able to assemble the slide bar. We attached the head with the pneumatics on it on one end and the operator control grips to the other side. Right in front of the operator grips, we mounted a metal basket so we can place counterweights in it to help balance out the prop and make it easier to control. One of the reasons we mounted a U on a vertical bar was that in case anything went wrong with the head, that we can take it off the stand and repair it without moving the base. The last thing we had to do was glue down the skin, add the teeth, and paint it. Ultimately, it worked out great. We had a second operator on it that sat on the shoreline controlling the mouth opening and closing. Moving the rig up and down and side to side was awesome. Sliding it forward and back really sucked with the amount of weight and water that the head held. It really was a workout, and being in that dirty pond sucked. The ducks really contributed to the overall smell, and every now and then something would rub up against your leg, and you didn't know if it was a fish or a snake. Seriously though, several showers were needed. That was a ton of work for those split-second shots, but like I said, it all worked out great. The next gator we had was for another really quick shot, when Mr. Permadio, played by Richard Reihle,
Jump to conclusions, Matt.
slipped on the fallen tree next to the scareboat. While sitting on the log, a small gator pops up out of the water and bites him on the leg. We figured the best way of making this happen was to use a hand puppet, more specifically a blood puppet. What makes it a blood puppet was that the blood tubes were mounted inside the mouth of the alligator puppet, just behind the teeth. The benefit of this is that wherever it bites is where the blood will be left, and you don't have to rig the actor up for blood. So we made a silicone puppet and backed the inside of it with a very porous reticulated foam, rigged in some blood tubes, and we were ready to go. Since I puppeted the big alligator earlier and had a wetsuit, I was pretty much designated the guy that did anything that involved an effects guy in the nasty pond water. So when it came time to shoot this, I pretty much had to lay down in the water underneath the fallen tree in that seriously nasty pond water. We found out really quickly that my wetsuit caused me to float way too much. Will Barrett, the director of photography, solved the problem by burying me under about 15 sandbags till only my face was just above that disgustingly nasty water. We were set. One of the other effects guys was on the shoreline, nice and dry, pumping the blood, and all I had to do was grab Richard Greeley's leg for a quick second. Everything was ready to go. Adam called for rain, and the rain towers started raining down on us. I kind of forgot about the rain towers, and well, it completely beaded water up on my glasses. And for added fun, not only when the water hit the pond water, it made such a sound I couldn't really hear the cues, but it also shot that vile pond water up in my face. I'm pretty sure I blew that first take, and Adam ultimately had to start screaming the action cues to me. When Adam yelled action, I reached up and grabbed Richard's leg. Blood shot all over him, gave it a few shakes, and plunged the puppet back into the water. And that was it. After that, a couple crew helped dig me out of the sandbag bunker that I was in, and it was off to the showers from there. And yeah, no amount of scrubbing was really helping. That pond water really soaked into me. I could smell it for days. I can taste it right freaking now. Okay, that's it for me today. Do the like and subscribe thing and I'll put out more episodes covering more of the effects. Thanks a lot for watching.